Charisma is not a smile, but an inner calm that inspires both fear and admiration at the same time. Charisma is not a fleeting smile, nor is it the nervous energy of insecurity. It is not the superficial skill of speaking beautifully, nor is it charm, and it certainly cannot be acquired through a shallow leadership training course. True charisma is, at its core, an inner stillness, a profound, almost unsettling quietude that simultaneously commands both deep-seated fear and unquestioning admiration from those who encounter it. This inherent charisma is an internal field of presence, an almost palpable aura that acts upon the environment, compelling the space and the people within it to react and align themselves with your rhythm. As the great political philosopher Niccolo Machiavelli understood, genuine influence does not depend on the sheer volume of your voice or the grandiosity of your gestures. Instead, it is intrinsically tied to the intensity and focus with which a person is absolutely present in the moment. Charisma, therefore, is not about the words you utter. It is about the pressure of your presence. The world is not truly listening to those who speak the loudest, but rather to those individuals who radiate an effortless, quiet confidence that requires no explanation, no justification, and no validation. People possess an innate, instinctual ability to sense immediately who is in command and who is merely conforming or trying too hard to fit in. Authentic charisma is best described as a profound and settled silence that, paradoxically, forces everyone else in the room to lower their voices and pay attention. Machiavelli knew this fundamental truth. Lasting power and authority invariably manifest without any unnecessary, frantic gestures. The truly strong individual does not actively seek attention. Instead, they successfully create an undeniable center of gravity to which the attention of others naturally flows. Charisma begins precisely at the point where your desire to please, your need for external validation, comes to an abrupt end. As long as your internal focus is directed outward, frantically searching for approval and acknowledgement, you are merely a mirror reflecting the expectations of others. But when you stand calmly, when you cease the performance, when you stop making excuses, and when you no longer actively seek an echo or a response, people begin to project onto you the very qualities they desperately wish to see in themselves. It is at this moment of self-containment that they begin their submission. Machiavelli astutely observed, "Power is a reflection. People respect not the ruler, but their own fear of him." This psychological principle is equally applicable to charisma. Charisma does not exist as an independent entity. It functions as a mirror for the unconscious projections of others. The charismatic person is simply the vessel, the one who possesses the internal fortitude to withstand the projection of other people's hopes, fears, and expectations without being crushed or dismantled by its sheer psychological weight. To maintain this state of centeredness, charisma demands an internal emptiness. This is not an emotional void or apathy, but a specific form of internal stillness. It means you are not cluttered or overburdened by the incessant need to prove your worth, to put on a show, or to convince anyone of your importance. When this vast, empty space exists within you, people are inevitably drawn to it, because where there is space, there is room for them to be. Conversely, the individual who is excessively full of themselves, consumed by their own ego and narrative, leaves no psychological room for others. This is why the truly charismatic person often seems slightly detached or emotionally reserved. Machiavelli had clear counsel for the powerful. A ruler should be visible, yet always remain strategically unattainable. Charisma operates as a potent psychological weapon because it penetrates the consciousness of others without explicit permission. People often begin to adopt your phrases, mimic your gestures, and internalize your reactions and worldview. They sense the power, yet they remain fundamentally unable to articulate its precise source or mechanism. Machiavelli, recognizing this subtle art of influence, wrote, "The best control is that which is unnoticed." Charisma executes this principle flawlessly. You can sit quietly, and people will anxiously await your decisive word. You can choose to be silent, and they will frantically fill the void by guessing and overthinking your intentions. You can simply be present, and they will constantly seek your silent approval or acknowledgement. This is not some form of black magic or parlor trick. It is the fundamental physics of commanding attention and influence. Machiavelli knew that presence is an inner resource that is impossible to successfully mimic or fake. Authentic charisma does not have to demand attention, it effortlessly commands it. People will turn their heads when you enter a room, not because you performed some grand action, but because you are moving to an entirely different internal rhythm. Your energy is concentrated, steady, and non-chaotic, and this is what generates profound curiosity. In a contemporary world where virtually everyone is rushing and overwhelmed, calmness and stillness become an undeniable mark of luxury and authority. Charisma does not hinge on external superficialities, not on physical appearance, not on the tone of your voice, and certainly not on your social status. It is entirely dependent on your internal order and self-mastery. Machiavelli understood that the world is structurally aligned to obey those who possess complete self-control and internal discipline. People naturally respect the person who does not allow themselves to be easily broken or emotionally destabilized. If your energy is deliberately collected, if your emotions are not permitted to drive your actions, you fundamentally transform yourself into a powerful magnet. Yet, this power of charisma is inherently dangerous. It harbors the potential to utterly destroy the one who wields it purely for the sake of attention and approval. The moment you begin to indulge and savor the attention, you instantly become a prisoner of that very need. Machiavelli warned that power that seeks love loses strength. Similarly, the person who actively wants to be charismatic, by that very striving, immediately ceases to be so. Charisma can only flourish in those who are internally prepared to be alone and self-sufficient. The truly charismatic individual is always slightly reserved or cold, not because they are indifferent, but because their attention and energy are highly selective. They do not allow their energy to be scattered. They are focused. They listen not merely to the words spoken, but to the underlying emotional states of the speaker. Machiavelli wrote, "He who knows the nature of man does not react to his emotions." Charisma is the refined skill of seeing deeper than the spoken words. It operates at a primal, instinctive level. People cannot rationalize or explain why they trust you. They simply feel it. Charisma is not about being universally good, but about being whole and integrated. The world is instinctively drawn to wholeness because it is itself broken and fragmented. Charisma is not about being a source of blinding light. It is about contrast. People notice you not because you are shining aggressively, but because you stand firmly and quietly in the strategic shadow. Machiavelli understood that light can be a trap. True power does not blind. It forces others to see what is real. You cannot be truly charismatic if you are talking constantly. Charisma is born in the pauses, in those profound moments when you fall silent, yet the meaning of your presence does not diminish. It is born when you look and your gaze communicates more than any string of words ever could. It is born when you are present, and the entire space perceptibly rearranges itself around your existence. Machiavelli wrote, "Power is the ability to manage attention." Charisma is the soft, subtle form of this control. The person who successfully holds attention without uttering a single word is already a master of influence. People quickly grow weary of those who loudly demand to be heard, but they become incapable of turning away from the one who simply is. Charisma starts with profound inner stillness. As long as you are rushing, trying to prove yourself, or engaging in pointless arguments, you lose your subtle field of influence. But when you become slow, deliberate, and internally composed, you acquire an essential gravity and weight. Machiavelli taught, "The gravity of the ruler is a symbol of his stability." In the same way, the weight of a person's presence creates respect. People sense when you are not performing or playing a role, and this absolute authenticity is the true source of all influence. Any conscious attempt to be charismatic immediately destroys charisma. It demands a form of naturalness, yet this naturalness is not simplicity. It is a highly disciplined state of being. Machiavelli understood that power must appear to be natural and inherent in order to be truly undeniable. Charisma is the silence that compels others to speak. People begin to open up around you because they instinctively feel a deep sense of safety. But within this safety lies a profound form of power. They become subtly dependent on your silent acknowledgement and approval. Machiavelli knew that the most effective way to govern is to allow others to speak while you reserve your mental energy for thinking and planning. You cannot radiate charisma if there is no darkness within. Charisma is born from the necessary integration of light and shadow. People sense your depth not because you are merely kind, but because you are fundamentally honest about your own complexity. Machiavelli said, "Strength is truth without excuse." The individual who is not afraid of their own darkness radiates a unique confidence that is absent in those who hide behind superficial goodness. The charismatic person makes no effort to be understood. They are not afraid of misunderstanding, because they know that mystery holds attention. People lose interest in that which can be easily explained and catalogued. Machiavelli knew that mystery is an indispensable tool of power. You should never reveal everything. Let them speculate and guess. Charisma requires internal silence. You cannot exert influence if your mind is filled with internal noise and chaos. Anyone who tries too hard to be persuasive is actively draining their own energy. Machiavelli wrote, "Excessive words weaken. A ruler who speaks too often becomes dependent on the reaction." The charismatic person is the one who can withstand misunderstanding and the initial absence of immediate affirmation. True influence has no need for arguments or debates. People respect those who do not defend themselves, because defense is an implicit admission of threat or weakness. Charisma is the settled conviction that you have nothing left to prove to anyone. Machiavelli knew that authority does not respond to accusations because its presence alone is the sufficient answer. You can remain silent, and they will hear you. You can depart, and they will follow you. You can simply look, and the space will shift. This is not magic. It is the inevitable result of complete internal control and concentration. Machiavelli understood, power is not words, but concentration. The fewer the unnecessary movements, the greater the significance of each one. Charisma is an energetic equilibrium. It is achieved when you do not desire more than what is appropriate, when you are not afraid of loss, and when you do not actively seek affection. People feel this perfect balance and submit to it, precisely because the majority live in a perpetual state of deficit and need. Next to a person who is internally full, they are confronted with their own psychological emptiness. Machiavelli wrote, "Power is not possession, but the management of desire. He who controls his own desire controls others." Charisma is exactly this, freedom from internal need and scarcity. Charisma is not synonymous with softness or aggressive rudeness. It is absolute control over one's energy. People often mistakenly believe that charismatic individuals are those who smile broadly and make an effort to be immediately likable. But true charisma does not ingratiate. It subtly compels and subordinates. not through overt fear, but through an undeniable internal superiority that cannot be counterfeited or imitated. Machiavelli knew that the power which does not have to demand obedience is the most enduring. When you enter a room and make no attempt to please or win favor, people immediately sense attention. They cannot understand why their attention is suddenly drawn to you. It is simply because your inner stillness creates a vacuum, and all the surrounding attention is instinctively drawn to fill that vacuum. This is the influence of true presence. People do not follow the one who speaks the loudest. They follow the one who speaks the least, but with the greatest weight and significance. Machiavelli wrote, "Human nature is so constituted that silence frightens more than a threat, because a threat is predictable and silence is not." The charismatic person never allows others to understand their weakness because they refuse to react or be provoked. They do not display irritation, nor do they feel the need to explain their motives, and this compels respect far more effectively than any show of brute force. Charisma is the shadow of power. It does not require validation, it simply exists. It does not need an audience. When you stand quietly, doing nothing, but the space around you is already restructuring itself, that is the moment when true influence begins. Machiavelli said, "He governs who creates order merely by his presence." The influence of presence is not connected to external superficial qualities. It is connected to a fundamental inner law. People sense this internal structure in you and begin to submit to it because the majority lives in a state of self-created chaos. The charismatic person is a structure that requires no external approval. His order becomes their point of stability and reliance. The world submits to those who radiate confidence without resorting to aggression. The aggressive person provokes resistance. The soft person provokes pity. The calm, composed person commands unwavering respect. Machiavelli understood that authority should never be overtly noticeable. It must simply be unquestionable. You cannot be charismatic if your focus is on seeking attention, because attention is a psychological form of dependence. Charisma begins where you are capable of being entirely unseen, yet still influential. People may forget your face, but they will never forget the feeling they experienced after an encounter with you. Machiavelli knew that influence is measured not by words, but by the lasting imprint left on the psyche of others. Charisma is profound emotional control. When others lose their balance, you remain still. When everyone is frantically explaining, you remain silent. When everyone is demanding, you simply wait. In that suspended moment, your pause becomes the center of gravity. People respect those who do not conform to the common frantic rhythm. Machiavelli wrote, "Power always belongs to the one who sets the tempo." You can be externally simple, but if there is internal composure, the space will react. The charismatic person is not playing a role. Their naturalness is a form of deep discipline. They do nothing superfluous. Every word, every glance is precisely calibrated. Machiavelli said, "The economy of movement is a sign of power." Charisma vanquishes without physical force because it has no need for aggression. It compels others to surrender their positions voluntarily. People themselves desire to please you, to prove that they are worthy of your attention and time. Machiavelli understood that the best way to rule is to make people actively strive to serve you. You do not ask for respect because you already know you evoke it. Any request immediately destroys charisma, because a request is a clear admission of dependence. The charismatic person never asks, he simply looks, and that gaze communicates, "I do not need." People instinctively sense when you are utterly without need. This disarms them. The majority is accustomed to playing the game of deficit. Who loves more? Who suffers more? Who tries harder? But when you refuse to play, the entire game collapses. Charisma is the antithesis of need. It is nourished by an absolute internal surplus of energy. Machiavelli wrote, "The people bow before him who does not waver." People may hate you, but they will deeply respect you if you remain unchanging and true to your core. The charismatic person does not alter his identity to suit the situation. His firmness is not a pose, it is a fixed system. He remains the same whether he is praised or hated. This is the true influence of presence, when your energy is as unchangeable as a natural law. Charisma is not a mask. It is the final result of deep inner self-work. It is born when a person stops fearing to be themselves, when they cease making excuses for their own light and for their own darkness. Machiavelli knew that strength resides in the one who does not divide himself into fragmented pieces. The integrated whole individual is always dangerous because he is fundamentally unpredictable. You cannot learn charisma from a book. You cannot train a specific gaze or a particular gesture. It is not a technique, it is a state of being. People feel the energy, not the words. Machiavelli said, "It is not an argument, but the feeling of order." When you are composed, everything around you naturally adjusts. Charisma is a form of power without a formal structure. It works at the level of instinct. People do not analyze, they submit. They sense that next to you resides something greater than a mere personality. They sense a system they can trust, even if they do not comprehend its mechanics. The charismatic person always operates from the strategic shadow, because the shadow creates depth. Light reveals the form, but it destroys the necessary mystery. Machiavelli knew that the one who governs is not the one who is seen, but the one who remains behind the curtain. Charisma is exactly this. It operates from the invisible. Presence is pressure. You can do nothing and yet still influence. Simply stand, and everything around you will become clearer and sharper. People will begin to curb their words, correct their posture, and choose their expressions with care. This is not fear. It is reverence for internal order. Machiavelli said, "Discipline without threats is the highest power." Charisma is not about being likable. It is about being yourself so confidently that others abandon the search for your weakness. People instinctively submit to clarity and stability. Machiavelli understood that the best ruler is the one who is not afraid of silence, because power resides in the silence. Charisma is the ability to look the world in the eye and never flinch. It is the energy of presence that requires no approval. It does not say, "Look at me." It simply says, "I am." And that is entirely sufficient to command everyone's gaze. You cannot be charismatic if you are seeking recognition, but when you renounce the need for it, recognition becomes inevitable. Machiavelli knew that the world follows those who do not follow the world. Charisma is the magnetism of stillness. It kills doubt without arguments. It compels belief without evidence. It acts slowly but irreversibly. People who have once entered the field of charisma can never forget it. Machiavelli said, "The best victory is that where the enemy did not realize he lost." Charisma wins precisely this way. Without struggle, without aggression, without noise. It simply exists, and everything begins to work differently. The strong person has no need to assert their strength. Their charisma does all the work for them. They can remain silent, and everything around them submits to their pace. Because their silence is not empty, it is saturated with inner law. People feel this law and bow to it. Charisma is not about influence over others, it is about power over oneself. The more you master yourself, the less you need to control others. Machiavelli knew that the true ruler is the one who does not waste energy on unnecessary control. Charisma vanquishes not with the body, but with presence. It kills doubt, kills noise, kills chaos. It leaves only the silence in which the truth can be heard. And that truth is stronger than any weapon. If you feel that these words resonate, subscribe to the channel. Let the truth of silent influence reach those who seek power without violence. If you recognize yourself in this description, write, "My stillness is my fire." If you feel ready to influence without shouting, write, "I kill chaos with presence." This is only the beginning.